listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Double Doc Talk Show. Today we have Sampson. Yes, and Chaz and I, we were scheduled to have a show, I think it was about a month ago, and we were finally able to dial it in tonight. So really excited. We have lots of questions about 7 principles and about yourself. So I'll just kind of shut up and turn it over to you. So hey, go ahead. How you doing today, Chaz?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm so happy we were able to make it happen, man. I was like, you know what? When you text me, I was literally driving from my office. I had just got off of another it's NFL-based show. And I was like, you know what? I got to take care of Joe. I was like, whatever time it is, I pray to God you were in PST. When you texted PST, I was like, bet, let's do it at 9 because that had to be the end of my day and I could take care of Joey. So thankful to be here, man.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time. You know, that's amazing. You bring up the NFL. I know you got a lot of interesting stuff to kind of talk about. So let's kind of just break on into it. Let's start with the military.
Yeah.
What was your motivation to join, and what was your time in service like?
Man, Joey, I grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of the 82nd Airborne Division. Let's also forget the 18th Airborne Division. I want to show them some love too. But I seen men and women jumping out of airplanes, man, and I was like, that's some badass. Can I curse?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I was like, that's some badass shit. I was like, I'm gonna do that. And so, dude, kid you not, we used to take my dad's contractor bags, the big hefty ones, the thick ones.
Mm-hmm.
We would poke holes in them, climb in a tree and jump out, trying to get the air to catch the hefty contractor bag. That's how committed I was, man, from day one. So I did. So I grew up around that. A lot of the mentors I had in church also were paratroopers, and they were the old school Army dudes that, had the gold tooth, and some of the guys that just were real stern and very strict kind of a guys, and, like Major Payne type energy. And so I really gravitated towards that. And so, growing up, I grew up in a very, conservative, strict Christian home. And, it was all about serving your country and serving your community. So that was kind of preached in my home. And I just remember doing ROTC in high school and was like, you know what, this would be in my back pocket. I was a standout football player as well. So I got a football scholarship, and then got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm not really feeling this anymore. I'm over football. I don't want to play anymore. I want to do something different. I want to get into like the working world. I think most young men want to get out to start working, doing something. And so I probably should have stayed playing football, but it's a blessing for me now. We'll talk about it later. But I saw a commercial. This just to kind of sum it up. I saw a commercial, and it was recruiting. It was, I think it was Army of One, or maybe right before it was Army of One. Maybe it was still Go Army. But there was a commercial, and it was guys rappelling and jumping out of airplanes, and they said $40,000. And I said, I want to see if I can get that $40,000. And so I went and to the recruiting station in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I went to Winston State at the time, and I joined. I took the ASVAB. I got almost a perfect score, and my recruiter wrote up the red carpet, so you can have whatever you want. And I got 32,000 to join, and that was the motivating factors.
That is so amazing, dude. Now, see, that's the kind of energy that I love, because it was a lot of the same energy for myself. I did the ROTC, NJROTC.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really know what to do. I didn't go to college, well, I did for like a year. Okay, community college.
Yeah.
And it took that lesson, that time to kind of figure out not just a sense of direction, but what I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, dude. So how old were you when you joined?
I had just turned 20. So I was 19. I left for basic training at 20. I had turned 20 in June, and my birthday is in May. So I had just turned 20 years old.
Oh, wow, dude. 20 years old.
20 years ago. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I'm going to be retiring this year.
Oh, dude. That's the same math that me and my buddies were talking about, because I got in 2004.
Okay.
And we were talking about it, and a lot of my other guys a few years ago, when they got out, of course they were older than me, right? And when they got out, they were just like, dude, the times have changed so dramatically.
Bro.
Yes.
Just a totally different military.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing that I love kind of talking about, because sports are different, America's different. Everything seems to be a little bit different, right? And it's not just a societal shift, it's people, the way we interact, the way we engage, the way we communicate. Podcasts, for instance, it's the hugest medium right now that everybody is referencing. Yeah. billions. Yeah.
Billions.
Yeah. And it's not a small B. That's that big B where everybody's
Right.
like, geez, where did this come from? And to hear that, you as a young man at 20, serving the nation, how many years did you end up serving?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
I
That
did
is
the standard 4-year and 22-week contract, and then I did a little bit of time in the reserves. And my reserve unit, shout out to them out in Washington State. I was at Fort Lewis. They really showed me a lot of love. I was a standout football player still. I played semi-pro in the military on the side, and I ended up getting a chance to go to Washington State and went to college there and played football there as well after the military service. So my reserve unit was like, hey, the Army gave me a school job to focus on school and football, and that was a blessing. I really appreciate that. They gave me 3 months out early, which was super cool. And so my reserve unit also gave me the same opportunity. It's like, you know what? We're going to release you from your contract. You get an honorable discharge from the reserve component. Best of luck to you. We feel like you have a very successful life after the military, and we just want to be a part of that story. So, it gives me chills now to like reflect back on that, because that was 15 years ago or probably 14 years ago. And just like the amount of things that have just, really transpired in my life, and the opportunities that came from that just was crazy. But they saw, I guess, my future in me, and they let me go early. So yeah, 5 years.
That is awesome, dude. Now
Yeah.
you bring it up. You bring up the goosebumps in that transition, and you coming from, a blessing,
Mhm.
or me and my guys, we call it an early release. Everything's more about prison mentality. And it's not because, people have different opinions and different experiences. It's just, hey, it depends on how you served and who you served with. And sometimes
Yep.
you get those great commands and you get that great leadership that
Mhm.
recognize not just your potential in the military, but
Yep.
afterward. So
Yep.
that's kind of where I want to pick apart a little bit, because with 7 principles, it's your business. I
Yep.
don't really know much about it. Do you mind filling me in on what is the 7 principles, and kind of how you came from not only military service, but the NFL and football life, and then into something like 7 principles?
Yeah, we'll be here all night, but I give you a very condensed podcast version. So, 7 principles is after the 7 Army values, and so those values. I mean, people say you drink the Kool-Aid or whatever they may say, but I guess I drank the Kool-Aid because I literally live those values, and I believe them from day one. Leadership, which is LDR, SHIP, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And I just stood by that. I really believed in it, and I embodied it. And as I started building the company, as a CEO or as an entrepreneur in that case, because now I'm a CEO, but then I was more of an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you start thinking to yourself, like, what do you name it? Like, should I name it after my name? And I was like, no, because one day I could probably exit this business and sell it. I wasn't using the word exit then. Now I use exit, but I was using more. I can sell the business, or someone else can take leadership of it, or something to that effect. Because what I'm doing has a lot of great good, and so I named the 7 principles after the 7 Army values. And while I was in the VA, is when I really started to understand that even though these are principles and every organization has a mission statement, it's actually people that's carrying the mission. And then oftentimes I didn't see it carried out the way I would have carried it out. But I mean, obviously, I'm sure someone looked at my decisions and said, well, I wouldn't do what Chaz did. So, I'm the type of person that I don't complain. I just make solutions. And I saw there was a discrepancy in the process with veterans and their benefits as a raider at the VA. And I said, you know what? I have all this knowledge and power and control. I want to use it for some good. And so I started helping law firms first, law firms, NGOs, nonprofits, help them understand the veterans process, and how, as raiders, we make decisions on the federal level. And that just transpired to helping veterans one-on-one. And Joey, I never ever want to do this for a business. I'm a finance guy. So I was thinking more like derivatives, hedge fund, stuff I'm into now, like private equity kind of stuff. But yeah, I couldn't tell veterans no. And I really wanted to be of a service and provide a solution. And I did it for free the first year, just so I can be able to help. And I got overwhelmed. And from there, I just started hiring people and scaling. And here we are 11 years later.
Jesus. See, that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that you were actually a VA raider, because
Yeah.
that's kind of the secret sauce, is knowing, hey, how do we communicate? Not only manage
Mhm.
expectations, but how do we communicate together?
Yep.
Because, and I love the way you're just saying, I love to serve, and I did it for a year for free. But let's show the listeners, what does that intake? What does that all encompass? Because my experience is a profoundly difficult one to discuss. But I know that there's people out there that are dedicated like yourself. They have those 7 principles, they have that ethos
Mhm.
to do the right thing, because that sense of obligation to serve, right? That is just radiating off of you. I'm like, yeah, me too. I don't know why it is in a lot of circumstances. I'm glad that you said it the way you did. It's not me judging others or others judging me, but I would prefer the job to be done this way,
Yep.
right? How did you go from service to then the VA? What was that culture like?
Yeah. Well, the culture of the VA, surprising the most is they are some of the most amazing, driven, resilient, selfless service type folks. I mean, I know the VA get a lot of slack, and I know I may get slack in the comments as well. But I can tell you firsthand from my own personal experience with my eyes and hands and the work I did for years with the VA. We had 2 employees get have a stroke at the VA. That's how much of a there is no work-life balance. We had a mandatory overtime. And I think
Mhm.
at the time I was putting in easy 60 hours a week, easy, maybe even 70.
Jesus.
Easy, bro. That's easy cake. Working every single day, 7 days a week. Sometimes like almost like being on deployment, like 12 hours a week. You'd be surprised how much work goes in at the VA level. These men and women care about these veterans, man, and they work their ass off for them. Do they always make the great decision or the best decision? That's up for debate. But I can say from my experience, it was one of those environments where it definitely was very stressful. It would take your whole entire life because the work never stops. Like as soon as you go to bed, we were at the regional office in Washington. We would have 20 cases coming in on a day. We'd go back to bed, wake up, come in and say another 10,000. Like of veterans all across the country. So, man, and you gotta understand, we're serving all these veterans in the country. There's 18 million of them. Well, at that time, it was probably like 16 million, but you get the gist here. It's a lot
Yeah.
of veterans, and they're filing cases, and guys are leaving the military every single day, and there's new cases coming in. There's appeals that are pending. And then some of these veterans are filing multiple cases as well. And so it starts to become this process where you have to find a way to standardize it and make it like a run of a mill. And that's where
Mhm.
some of the veterans get caught up in the shuffle. So if you don't know how to communicate directly, here's my need, here's my ask, here's my evidence, your case, it goes through the process of being scrutinized. And when you're in that scrutinization process, it's like you've been in uniform before, you understand how that works. If you're being scrutinized, it's anyone's guess what someone's, I guess, determination is of you, unless they like you or unless you just that squared away, then it's a different conversation. But yeah, for me, the culture from the feds, prior to being in the federal government, the civilian side was more fun.
Mhm.
But you had no resources, so you had to figure out on your own, which I was cool with that too. I did very well in the civilian, and I still do well in the civilian sector. So I had no problems transitioning from the military. It was straightforward for me. I competed, came in, did my job, boom, got paid a lot of money. So it wasn't that big of a deal for me in regards to the culture. But the federal government side was definitely more. It was a lot of work. It's just the work never fucking stops. It keeps going, it keeps going. And so I left the VA, went to the Pentagon. I was at DOD for a while. I was FDW, which is half A1, headquarters Air Force, and that was much. It was a much cooler culture. We had like wine. We had like a thing called Beer 30, where we drink beer at 3:30 on Fridays, and we had wine and cheese. But it was a lot of hard work as well. But it was more advisory work. I was advising management on how to be in compliance with federal regulations for terminations, adverse actions, labor negotiations, CBA, which is a collective bargaining agreement, that kind of stuff. So, but to answer your question, yeah, the culture was definitely one of hard work. You had to come to work ready to work every single day. We have production at the VA, so they actually do measure what you're doing, and if you aren't doing enough, you're getting fired. And yeah, it was one of the best environments ever because you got a chance to look at a veteran. There were times, man, something bringing tears to my eyes, bro. There were times at the VA, man, you will see a veteran's case, you can kind of see his story or her story. You can look through all the evidence, like, damn, man, they've been struggling for a long time. And you're able to award the case. Man, you give somebody $500,000, bro. I've given a number of $500,000 cases in decision making. So, the same way it's rewarding, there's also some downside to it. But overall, man, it was probably one of the best experiences I had outside of serving in the military.
That's beautiful. That's something I'm very glad you bring up in the way you brought it up, because my experience is that opposite of
Okay.
that, like just in such a way that it's peculiar. me and my wife talk about this a little too constantly. And that's the thing, is that I see it and I know it, and I was a part of it being in the medical field as a corpsman, right? And knowing that people genuinely care, but there seems to be this thing, this veil that we just can't clear the mud about. And it's so weird
Mhm.
for my situation, but I still tell veterans the same thing, like, hey, everybody case is different. Okay.
Yeah.
Get your stuff squared away, get your paperwork, talk to people like yourself, get organizations behind you like yourselves. 7 principles, people, pay attention. Okay.
Mhm.
Because when you think about it, what you're talking about, even how you're kind of going over and then now saying, hey, I focus on policy and this is what I did at the Pentagon. I'm like, people, the average persons don't think this way. They don't
Mhm.
discuss things this way. They don't discuss CFR code. They don't discuss resources and analysis. They don't talk about the CBOC and how they're changing their
Mhm.
thing and how this is going to affect this program and their legislation is going to affect
Mhm.
this. And then
Oh
by
yeah.
the end of it, right? This just happened to me this week. I call it getting broken up with my doctors through Medicare now, or actually anybody. They changed a certain parameter within Medicare. Now I can't see my concurrent he's my suicide prevention psychologist, right?
Mm.
and
Yeah.
and that's the one that I can't see anymore because of a technicality.
That's
So
a
all of
problem.
it is a
We
problem.
should unpack. That's a really big problem. I hate to cut you off, but that's something I advocated for very early on. Is that we have veterans in our cycle now that will have a PCM, and then it gets
Mhm.
changed. And then when the PCM changes, all the doctors behind him or her changes as well. So now this veteran that has this relationship has opened up and communicated. It may have taken 20 years for this guy to even fucking talk. Now we got a whole new person. It's a grad school student. You know how we feel about grads. I love them to death, but I mean, come on. Like, I don't want to talk to an 18-year-old about 50-year-old man problems, right? Like, even though I may be 30, I don't want to talk about those things, right? So, we try to encourage our clients best way we can, but I would like to find a solution around the healthcare cycle and keeping consistent care, because our clients, that's their number one. Well, I wouldn't say number one, but I would say it's probably top 3 for sure,
Mhm.
that their care switches so frequently to where they say F the VA system, and it's disheartening. So I hate what you're going through, man, because that's a problem. But
Yeah.
I just don't think the VA really. I don't know if I want to say they don't care, but it just feels as if like there's nothing really concrete being done to stop that, because it has not stopped at all across the country. We hear it every day.
Yeah. And that's something that you hit right on the hill, right on that nail on the head hill is exactly that. I've been transferred in the past year 4 times. Okay, since last
Wow,
year
that's once
after
a
a
quarter.
severe fall. Yeah,
Every quarter.
it's yeah, it's bad.
Damn, every 3 months. That's bro. It takes you at least it takes like what, a month to get an appointment,
Oh
and then
yeah,
on
no,
top of it, and
yeah, if you're lucky.
if you're lucky.
Yeah. For me
I
with
gave up
the
on that. I mean, I'm recipient of the benefits as well, and I know the benefit system so well. I gave up on it because
yep.
here in Houston, it's a big city. They were giving me 2 months. I have this really bad ankle. It's just hurting right now, actually, ankle and knee issue. And they gave me 2 months for an appointment. I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna go somewhere else, man.
That's what I
So
have to do,
it's
and
unfortunate.
that's the thing that made me so excited to talk to you about this stuff because, man, if I really feel like we're gonna have a very well-developed relationship with fixing and mending these problems because the issues that I've faced in the past year and a half, right? It's so unique that the National Legal Services for Veterans program, or the big one that even Wounded Warrior Project, everybody's consolidating to them because they're the
Mhm.
experts now.
Yep.
W- They told me last week, hey, you're 99.5% not what we do or who we help. We don't
Wow.
have anything for you. There isn't anybody that can help you. And for a year and a half, that's what I've been hearing. Like, even with the crisis line, they broke up with me. My
Hmm.
boy Todd. Yeah. So it was so bad that I call the crisis line so often that they actually call me more often than I call them. And in that, they do a peer-to-peer support, which is great
Okay.
program. If the need you have is that initiation, that's why I love talking to you, because that guy you're talking about that finally opened up and he
Mm-hmm.
did it that one time and it
Mm-hmm.
saved his life and he was able to open up to you guys at 7 Principles to get that claim completely and comprehensively filed, and then boom, that $500,000 right there, and now they're just like, "Oh, wow. I'm the guy that has to do it 4 times in a year. In fact, actually more than 30 times in a year with
Where do you
everybody at
live?
the San Diego."
Oh
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
it
Okay.
is. It is
Yeah.
bad.
It's
Yeah,
brutal down there. Yeah. Yeah. It's brutal.
and
There in LA.
it has the reasons. It has the reasons are, which is what you presented very, very, modestly, is the workload. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know I know providers, one of my best providers, he had to leave the VA because of the workload, right? Not
Hmm.
the work, but the workload.
The workload.
Because
Yeah.
we're not talking about rating people. We're not talking about, doing medicine. We're talking about, hey, we have policy, we have federal
Hmm.
instruction, we have state regulation, we have county this, we have these programs and that program. And if we don't, like, this is what I loved about your webpage. If we don't handle that white glove handoff and do warm transitions, that veteran's going to become bitter and then depart. They're no longer
Yeah.
going to engage. And then beyond
Absolutely.
that, you're going to have to reestablish trust, rapport, and give and act in a way where they can now have a different opinion, different experience.
Hmm.
That's what I
And
love
that's
about
hard
the
to
way you're
do.
marketing. It
That's
is.
hard to gain that trust back. Yeah. Once
It
you lose
is.
that trust, it's a wrap.
But the way you market it and the way you discussed it, even, kind of passively about, you went from the military, you went from here and then to the VA, and then you started this thing and scaled to the full force that you're a CEO,
Yeah.
right? You're the guy, right? That knows, hey, honestly, the CFR code's very comprehensive.
Hmm.
If we were to take it and shove it into analytical LLMs and different
Yep.
systems and give it what it needs, it would regurgitate within perfect form, okay, anything that corresponds to that CFR code comprehensively. I'm half retarded, bro, and I know that shit. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
what are we
understand.
doing? What are we doing with $451 billion in 2026? I was gonna say 2006.
No. No.
2026. We are going to spend that much money, right? And I go, there's
Hmm.
gentlemen like yourself that could probably jump in with your program and what, we're gonna get a little bit more on what you offer, but jump in and say, hey, not only am I intimate with the people that are making decisions, right? We have a working relationship with this
Hmm.
business of mine, 7 principles, and here's a unique case study. I'd love to. I would love to be the name of it, like code
Okay.
name, code name. I don't know. We'll come up with a working name. Code name Joey for right now, right? Devil Doc. Okay.
Devil Dog. I was about to say Devil Dog. Yeah.
Codename Devil Doc, right? And we just discussed, like, how is this possible that this gentleman in the span of 15 years has repeatedly hit all these gaps and has captured it with audio recording, transcriptions, thousands upon thousands of medical record pages, right? Confirmation of test analysis and all this stuff. But for some reason, right, when I bring it to Congress and the director of this hospital here in San Diego, it's non-fathomable what I'm
Mm.
asking for, which is a primary care physician to coordinate my care that I need because I'm a severely disabled dude, right? I don't like
Mhm.
focusing on that, especially on the show. But again, that's the reason why I'm super excited to be talking to you about it, because it's a part of me that the mask won't allow to be shared, right? And
Yeah.
that's something that you nailed it. There's this guy, 40, 50-year-olds, hey, they don't wanna talk about this stuff over and over and over again. They
Hmm.
don't wanna relive the trauma. We have to have a trauma-informed type of care system, right? Because
Absolutely.
what we're talking about is our nation's heroes at their most critical moment of need,
Yep.
not the villain of the story, okay? Not that continuous stigma that I hear about, the cultures that veterans are thieves and they get too
Hmm.
much and they live the lack of luxury and the benefits are too much or they don't even really need it. Why? Who they didn't even go to war. They didn't even do this. And it's a pissing competition or dick measuring competition
Hmm.
that doesn't have any statutes within the CFR code.
Right.
Because my guy, when I found out that all you really had to do was make it past like a couple weeks in boot camp, and they go, "Oh, my ankle," right? I'm like, shut the fuck up. Are you kidding me? That's all you had to do? And then everybody and their mom, including the Washington Post, is like, yeah, that's all of them, by the way. And I'm like, I'm over here. I can't even get a basic primary care doctor to read my comprehensive medical record that's from the VA itself. Okay. That
Mhm.
I'm not even coming from external sources. This is all internal after being hardship transfer for treatment when I was still in under medical hardship 105 orders, whatever that's called. Right. I didn't know about IDES. I didn't know about
Mhm.
C blocker. What do they call it? The review.
CFO?
Thank you. And
Mhm.
how they're supposed to medically validate the fact that I am now fit for duty, then I could be discharged. That never
Yep.
happened.
Mm.
So in the past year, it's been this journey of just eye-opening codes and laws and policies. And my dude, when we had our episode squared away, I was like, oh, the questions I have to ask. But it's not so much the personal stuff. It's how do we then get guys like myself that are bitter to not give up? You know, that was something that I had the crisis line on the phone last month, and we were talking about it. And they go, Joey, you know, we can't help you anymore. Okay.
Mhm.
The peer-to-peer support program, Todd, really great guy. Okay. We're not designed to help you in what your situation is. So we can't continue this relationship. Therefore,
Mhm.
we have to break up. And that's the
Yeah.
reason why I make it kind of laughable, because it does sound, if you ever get on a phone with the grown ass man, it looks like they're about to cry and be like, hey, so it's not me, it's you. I mean, it's
I
like,
understand.
it's like what, of course it feels like a breakup. And
Yeah.
after that, there was this profound realization that if we have a unique opportunity to assist, right, an obligation to assist, and I do sound intelligent from time to time, right? But the truth is I'm illiterate. I'm illiterate when it comes to all of the things that you're an expert in, right? The CFR codes, how do you apply, what records are what, and how do you express yourself in a capacity that is digestible and discernible to the point where you're not getting a green button pushed on your ass.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
how would you say, right? Not just the services and the opportunities you provide for veterans, but you know, being that answer, especially for a guy like me, like even just sharing the fact that, dude, I was really hoping I meet a guy somewhere that's worked in the VA that is actually passionate,
Mhm.
because everybody that I talk to, you can hear it and you can see it, and it really feels the same like it was in the military. You're trying to fight a fight with your hands tied behind your back. And
Yeah.
this is the
Mhm.
people that work there every day. So I don't know where the fix is, because it just seems like it's a top-down issue.
Yeah.
What type of fixes do you see not only yourself and your services fixing, but of course that day to day, just getting people to engage with the VA system, filing that first claim, you know,
Mhm.
getting their name on the board, so to speak, right? Because to me, I really believe after those hit pieces that Washington Post put out, people, if we're not engaged in another world war soon enough, the veterans affairs at their budgetary ballooning, right, of potentially, I think it's like 700 billion by 2035 or something, or more than
Mhm.
that. Um, what are we going to justify that with if the outcomes are, sadly enough, that there is gentlemen like yourself necessary to
Mhm.
literally help save lives?
Okay. What was the question?
Yeah, I
Those
know
are
it was
two
a lot.
questions there.
My question to it is, how and what services do you provide, and how can we focus in on that, the solutions behind that, I wanna say, lack of outcomes?
Yeah. So I mean, dealing with the VA can be pretty cumbersome. I'm not at the VA anymore for obvious reasons because I'm on this side of the business. But I think to answer your question, I think it comes from within. What we
Mm,
tell our clients is these are benefits that you've earned that are yours, and it's up to you to leave them on the table. But it's our job to make sure that you're aware of them. And if you want to take action to actually obtain them, then we have resources to do that. Or you can go on your own, or you can use free resources, whatever works best for your budget. So, our position is more about the economy. I'm a finance guy. That's what I know. Politics is what I understand, but what I know is finance.
mhm,
And with the whole political part of it, of the top down process, the bureaucracy, Congress, the VA's leadership, like I pay attention to it, but I don't really I don't delve into it. I really delve more into like the financial part of you're able to come here to our firm and get what's rightfully yours. And the compensation that you're going to receive for the rest of your life is enough for you to say, you know what, F the VA, I can go private care,
mhm,
or you know what, I've been able to be restored confidentially, as far as confidence is concerned, to where I can go out and build a business. So I take more of like what I know and just add that to the table as another option, another equation. Like for instance, I'm speaking on a course next month in November. I'm teaching veterans how I've bought so much real estate. And
mhm.
so I like to be able to teach her, hey, even though the VA system is what it is, you can fight these folks all you want, but it's a bigger system to fight. There's other things I think you can fight that will get you what you want, and then you just have to take the L over here. So, like for me, I don't want to have to pay for healthcare. It's very expensive. It comes out my pocket every single month for me and my family. I mean, I don't want to have to pay for it, so I have to find other ways to make sure I can, cover the pay for that.
Yeah.
But I look at it as I took an L with the VA on that one, but I got a W somewhere else. So that's how I've been able to overcome it. Because if you try to fight the VA, I mean, it's all great and all, but you're just spinning your wheels. Honestly, you may get some traction here and there, but it's just not worth the time. So I just pick the battles. I fight the battles I know I can win.
See, that's amazing, dude. I love that. I love that so much because when you bring up L's and W's, that's literally the voice in my head, right?
Mhm.
Why are we going to keep, pushing our head and bumping our head on concrete when we could just pivot and
Yeah.
do something, right?
Yeah,
Do
just
something
pivot,
with
yeah.
it. Yeah, just
Yeah.
pivot. So when you pivot, right, and when you are creating like this abundance for your family and yourself,
Mhm.
right? How do you find tranquility and or peace and balance, and how do you then continue that drive?
I think for me, I've always been a competitor. I mean, I think that's just like I'm not sure if it's something that's innate or if it's something that you learn over time. But for me, it's just been innate to compete since I was like a little boy. So it may just been God just blessed me in that regard. But I've always had a mindset like I want to compete, I want to grow. I'm a lifelong learner, which is why I have my hand in so many different business industries because I'm curious and then I end up mastering it because I learn things pretty quick and then boom, it ends up becoming a financial gain of some sort. But for me, I just always found I guess I've always just been ambitious, man, and it works for me. I don't have a golden response of like, boom, if you do these things, it's going to happen. But I'd say what has worked for me, maybe others can take from it as well. What I do is I focus on what I can control. Bottom line, if I cannot control it, I don't give a fuck about it. There's just I hate to talk like that, but that's just the bottom line of like that's where I stand. If I cannot control it, fuck it. And then what I can control, I then go into like what's in my purview, right? Like for instance, the neighbor's kid has an issue with my kid. I'll let my significant other take care of that. Let her have that communication because I shouldn't jump in unless I really need to, and let the ladies handle that. So it's like I just know how to, I guess, maneuver myself where I'm always going to be in a good position. And I just think about what will be the ending of my decision. So for me, this is in my purview. This is what I control. If I do these acts, these are going to be my potential consequences. Can I deal with it? Like for instance, I like to speed. So I know if I go out here on these Texas highways and I speed, I'm already prepared for the consequence. I'm already prepared for it, and I'm just willing to take that L. But if I don't get caught for speeding, that's a W. I got to wait
Yeah.
for that day, right? So I do what's in my control of decision making, and I make decisions that I know are not going to have a massive impact. And also, number three, the last one is whatever I'm doing, how does it add value back to me? And then how am I also recycling that value back out to the world? And so if I can find things that are bilateral transactional, I talk to you, you talk to me, we're both having a good time on our podcast. We want to sit here and talk to each other. We obviously see value in this conversation. So for me, I'm all about value add. And if I can't add value then, or there's no value that I can generate from it as well that I can send somewhere else, then it's not good for the both of us.
Dude, that is
That's how I do
amazing.
it.
That's amazing because you use so many words that I use with my family all day just to kind of communicate the actuality of existence, right?
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is like, hey, look, I don't have any gruff with any man out there getting his nut. All right. What I
Mhm.
have an issue with is when we accumulatively all look and go, hey, this thing ain't working the way it's supposed to. Yeah, we're wasting a lot of money on it. Okay, hey, just so we're all good. We're all good. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go get my nut. All right. And then
Yeah.
we can throw little rocks at this, big ass bitch
Mhm.
that just sucking us dry. And eventually, things will change. But I love that. Even the purview, right? What is in my purview, right? What is actually digestible? What is relative to where my boundaries are and what I'm able to add value to?
Yep.
That's
Bottom line.
fucking beautiful, dude.
Yeah. If
Because
you're
to
not
me,
adding value, it's a waste of your time.
thank you. And that's something that I think a lot of people have trouble with is
Mhm.
saying, hey, then what is it that needs to be cut? What
Mhm.
needs to be changed? Me and my son were just talking about waking up early, and I go, honestly, he's staying up late and he's doing his robots. He's hardcore in robotics and coding and all this engineering stuff. And I'm like, I could be like, oh no, we need you to definitely go, bedtime and get strict because that's the way I was raised. I don't know
Mhm.
no different, right? My internal mechanisms operate the way that I was conditioned, right?
Mhm.
I'm an optimist, I'm a competitor, I'm ambitious, much like yourself. That's why I very much love this conversation,
Mhm.
because when I tell my kids, I'm like, hey, I'm not just trying to teach you to wake up early. I hope you get it. And it's not me telling you that it's difficult. It's difficult. And it's not me making things difficult. It is difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like for yourself, starting a business, right? And scaling it. I'm pretty sure in the 11 years you've been operating as the 7 principles, right? You had a lot of hiccups, ththings got messy, but you
Mhm.
didn't stop. You pivoted, you leaned into it, and you built. So in that, dude, I love that philosophy, that ethos and that vision, because when you're helping veterans understand, I understand it in a different way, but it's the exact same answer, right?
Yep.
It doesn't change between Joey or Chaz or Scott, Dick, and Harry. And you just can't quit. And yeah,
Yep.
it sucks. And yes, the radical acceptance, the doctor I just broke up with, right? He tells me about radical acceptance. I'm like, fuck yeah, I like, totally radical, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like the guys you saw jumping out of an airplane, right?
Mhm.
You have to lean into that chute, right? Even though it's pinching the crotch, it's not comfortable,
Right.
but you got to lean into it. You have to trust these mechanisms. You got to trust these systems. You got to trust yourself. When you do this, like in your world and in your day to day, now you're an NFL agent, right?
Mhm.
You set these goals and you go, hey, this is something I want to accomplish. This is what I want to do. And this is what's going to happen. How do you go about that journey? Is it something that you take a lot of time meditating on? Do you meditate? I don't know. Is
Mhm.
it something that you journal? Like, what's your process to success?
Yeah. So my process is pretty clear. I literally set a goal and I just write these. So I'll show you here. So every day I do one of these sheets. It's not organized at all in regards to like how I do it. I just have a sheet, random sheet. Sometimes it's my notes on my phone. Sometimes it's a random sheet from the printer. Sometimes it's like a little agenda thing I have. And I write down my goals every day. I've been doing that since I was probably 16, teenager. I write down my goals every day, what I want to accomplish. And then now I started grading myself on those goals. I want to say maybe 10 years ago that I actually grade myself. If I can't reach 80%, then I feel like I fell. Even today, like this is part of like my grade. Like I've actually did X amount of podcasts per month, per week. So if I meet this quota, boom, I know I'm gonna hit X amount of goals. So for me, this success for me looks like this. First, when you talked about bedtime, right? I don't believe in bedtimes. I believe in restful sleep. So for me, my number is 7. So I get 7 hours sleep every single night. So if I go to bed at 3 a.m., you will not see me till 10. If I go to bed at 1, you will see me at 8. So that's just how it works for me. So right now it's 10 o'clock p.m. here in Texas. I plan to go to bed around midnight because I want to get up around 7 in the morning tomorrow, 7:30, something like that. Actually, I need to go to bed a little early because tomorrow's trash pickup. I got to get one of the trash cans dropped off. But so I want to get up at 7. So that's what it looks like for me. It looks like sleep first, 7 hours of sleep. And if I can get rest, I can compete. And then from there, it's just a matter of every single day, I have a large elephant and I just bite from that elephant. And I think if people look at these big goals, especially when they think about the things that I've done over the last my whole entire life, and they say, "Oh my God, you did all these great things." I had the same 24 hours the next person does. And I feel like for me, it's like I'm not even I can do way more. I was literally just talking to my lady about this. I'm like, I could do way more than what I'm doing now. And people look at me like, wow, how did you do all that stuff? I'm like, well, all you do is one, you find the goal. Second, you make sure you have rest to get to the goal, which for me is 7 hours. And then you find small little pieces that get you to your bigger goal. And then you team up and partner with people. That's how you really scale. Because now I know that being the smartest guy in the room is unhealthy. I've known that for years. But for the last, I would say probably 7 years, I've been really delicate about going after certain people that I know I can work with, that we have the same ethos, we have the same motivation, have the same goals. We're willing to put in the same amount of effort to see this bigger thing happen. And I team up with them. And then I bring my resources, they bring their resources. And now we go back to our earlier concept of there's mutual value add on
Mhm.
both parties in. So that's how you do a goal, man. As far as the other goals, like going to college and graduating and then starting a business, those things are anybody can do those things. I mean, I know that's very cliche to say or very nonchalant, but anyone can do those. The thing is how well can you sustain it? And that's where the goal setting really happens. There's anyone can be an entrepreneur. It's not that hard to do. Well, I'm not gonna say it's not that hard, but depending on how big you want to scale, the difficulty level is not that massive, especially in today's economy. 10 years ago, a little more difficult, but now you have so many resources. I mean, you can really be an entrepreneur on your own and make a little extra money. It doesn't have to be $20 million, but it can be easily extra $500 per month. There's a lot of little things you can do to make extra few $100. But yeah, that's how I conquer success. It's really about setting a goal and just every day working towards a goal. And I keep myself accountable by literally doing a goal sheet every day, and I grade myself. And if I don't pass my grade, then I even tell my lady out there. Sometimes we talk. We go on walks every single night. So we're gonna go to walk after this call. We're going to walk every single night, walk for about an hour and a half, and we go over what we did for the day. Some days we miss because we just are busy. But there's some days I'm like, babe, I can't walk tonight. I didn't perform well today. So I sit right here in my office and I'll perform until I go to bed. And then whenever I go to bed, I get 7 hours. That's how I do
That's amazing, dude. Dude, your wife sounds absolutely blessed, like absolutely blessing to have, because just being able to share that journey with somebody and be engaged and go for walks and
Mhm.
do things like that. That is such a beautiful life, dude. So
Yeah.
for when you guys do have those days, right? Those, you need a little pick me up, right? To stay
Mhm.
centered and focused. What do you find helps the most? You brought up church earlier. I'm a very spiritual person. I wouldn't say religious, but have a profound sense of faith. And that's something that I always bring up, not always, but when you brought it up earlier, I was like, that's something I really would love to talk about, because even these moments, right? The stuff I go through when we get off recording, I'll feel a little bit in, I'll feel a little bit in, and you'll be like, what the
Mhm.
fuck? And like, yeah, I know. How are you still alive? I don't know. How are you
Yeah.
smiling? I don't know. Like, hey, it is what it is, right?
Mhm.
But that ability to overcome, adapt, right? Set new goals, establish, a trajectory. Um, that's something that I really wanna kinda leave the listeners out on, is that positive step. I'm sorry, after we talk a little bit more about the 7, principles and how we can engage with you a little bit more,
Yeah.
how does a veteran kinda initiate that relationship with like an advocate or, somebody that helps with claims?
Yeah, so for us, it's simple. 7principles.com, do an intake form. That's where you start. I mean, we only ask for intake form from our customers. Our process is built to where we do the entire process for them. So it's truly a white glove process. They fill out one intake form and we take it from there. That's it. Now,
That's it.
connect with me, that's it. Yeah. We wanted to build an ecosystem. And you said something very critical earlier about LLM. We actually just built an LLM that we're deploying next month, and it actually solves all of your problems from healthcare to benefits to resume building, et cetera. Because we've been in this space and we know our customers and we also are our own clients. And I'm talking about me and my staff. And so for us, we wanted to find a way to make this simple to where the veteran does not have to worry about all the rigmarole. Fill out one intake form. We got it from there. That's it.
That's beautiful, dude.
Yeah.
Because I have so many conversations with veterans about this very
Mhm.
issue. Sadly enough, I do think it's the expectation management and the understanding of the
Oh yeah,
process that just eats
absolutely.
people alive. It just is the meat grinder of. I don't. You said it about school. Nonchalantly, you said, yeah, all you got to do is to wake up and do it. Get that
Yeah.
7 hours. But for a lot of people like that are out there listening,
Mhm.
and they might be faced with literal life and death decisions, as they're listening. This has
Mhm.
been some of the emails we get,
Oh
like,
yeah.
hey, I was about to pull that trigger and I heard you talking, and I'm like, nah. And I'm like, okay, thank you, like, thank you for
Mhm.
not making that decision, because getting the rating right is half the step.
Yeah.
Getting the treatment right, that's the step
Yeah.
I'm
That's
having
the
the
step.
problem with. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the important one, the next one. But to know that there's people like you out there that have such a simple process,
Mhm.
one form, the 7principles.com, right?
That's correct.
That's
7principles.com. Mhm.
7principles.com. It's one form, and then it's a white glove service where you don't have to do what Joey did to everybody. Like, don't. And it's something that I'm so adamant about. Like, I want to scream it at the secretary of the VA and be like, hey guys, we really need to implement different ways of how we communicate benefits, the system, the transition, the expectancy, the delivery, the communication, the language,
Mhm.
the proficiency, right? Because
Yep.
I said it earlier, I'm illiterate when it comes to this stuff, but I'm an autodidact as much as I can, and I
Mhm.
love digesting material where I could pick up a CFR code book and go, "Oh," even though it's not a book, it's online, you know?
No, it's a
It's
book too. I have the
there is
same
a
right
book.
behind me.
Oh,
Absolutely.
wow.
Man, I took that book and I studied that book for I want to say a year and a half straight. I still know the CF off the top of my head. Like most parts 3 and part 4, absolutely. I studied it from front to cover. I read
Jesus.
it every day. Yeah. I read that and the NFL CBA. Those are the 2 books in the world that I know front to cover.
What is the CBA?
I'll show it to you.
NFL CBA. That sounds so cool.
This is what you need to know as an NFL agent.
Oh my God.
This is like the CFR. This is the actual CBA, the NFL CBA.
Dude, that is so dope.
Yeah.
Collective bargaining.
Yep, CBA collective bargaining agreement. So that's the book, and then the rest of these are just other parts of the NFL's NFLPA's working knowledge for players.
Dude, that is so amazing. I'm so glad you brought that book out because I almost forgot to pivot into that.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, what is it like working with the NFL and being an agent? What's that like? Because I grew up little bit of history. I grew up in Lemoore, California, right? Grew up
Mhm.
wrestling, did the football, did the varsity, everything like that. Lorenzo Neal was one of the guys that was a wrestling and football dude, and he was always in the room back and forth for things. And you stay in touch with people throughout the years, but I never dared to even kind of break the ice about, hey, what was that NFL experience like? What did,
Yeah,
it's just like the same thing with military. I think people kind of be like, oh, I'm not going to ask. What if he says like, oh, it's horrible or something? What?
yeah.
But what is that like working with the NFL and being an agent?
It's a blessing because you're able to meet these college men that are looking to become professional athletes, and you're able to give them and their parents great advice on what to expect at the next level. So for me, it's a thrill, man. I mean, obviously you have your games, you have your big names you see on TV, and you have the guys in the locker room that are household individual names, and so yes, that's a part of it. But for me, I find a lot more joy in I'm able to meet with a young man's parents, and we can sit down and discuss, his future and how I play a role in that. And that to me is the beauty of it. And especially like on draft day, you see a kid. Some of these kids know they're getting drafted. Obviously, they're getting drafted first round, second round, and so forth. But you got some kids that are like, I don't know if I'm gonna get called on day 3 or day 2, or if I'm gonna, get a UDFA call. So it's pretty cool to see like the family very happy about their son being drafted, and then their son, of course, seeing the fruits of his labor come to fruition. And he's been trying this for 20 years. So it's a pretty cool experience to help a young man join the National Football League and do well in it.
See, that's something that's so beautiful because the game really gave me the football game, the
Mhm.
football game, and wrestling really gave me a sense of community. And it was
Yeah.
such a strong bond of the community and, being a young man and, of course, the camaraderie within the team. And then after that, I never kind of went back to it. Always try to stay physically fit. Now things are different. But to have that kind of I want to say that contact with that
Mhm.
youth, with that ambition, with that energy, given the same kind of correspondence, the same kind of correlation, I should say, of what you do for veterans, right?
Yeah. Same thing.
And yeah, and to me, that's something that's beautiful because you do hear horror stories of people not knowing
Oh
how to
yeah.
negotiate things, how to prepare adequately. The quality of life is shifted. Things change. When we start talking about some of the numbers that are, exactly what you said, it's fruit based off of what your works were.
Yeah.
And to be successful in any field and being able to transition as much as you have, I think that that's just beautiful what you're able to do for a young man that's coming into, football, especially with the NFL, and
Mhm.
say, hey, not only this, but that. And I think
Yeah.
that's just so amazing. So when you started that journey with the NFL and become an agent, what was that like? And how did I want to say the rest of the past, the military, the VA, your business, and how did that prepare you to become this new an NFL
Yeah.
agent?
Yeah. So yeah, great question. So it was demoralizing at first because I failed the NFL exam the first time, and so I had put a lot of effort into understanding the CBA and understanding the different parts that you're tested on, from grievances to contract disputes to salary cap to salaries and termination pay for athletes, injuries, and benefits and so forth. I put a lot of effort into it. I actually put a year of study into it, and I failed the exam by one question. And so at first it was a huge letdown, and I was like, oh my God, I was so distraught, and all my contacts that I had developed and people that I had relationships with, and I just couldn't perform that particular year, and that really sucked. And so I got down a little bit, but I didn't get down long. I was down for like maybe like a couple of hours, and I was like, all right, fuck it, I got to figure this shit out. So
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I made some phone calls, cold calls actually, to other agents in the NFL, and they picked up my phone call and they were like, "Yeah, we're more than happy to help you out." And a lot of folks reached out and helped me out and gave me some options of things I can do and consider while in the meantime. And yeah, it was definitely a blessing. And I actually I ended up, of course, taking the exam again and passed. And I ended up teaming up with another veteran. He's a Marine Corps vet and Army vet too. He served in both branches, and his co-founder, Jeff. And so me, Damian, Jeff, we just came together, and I like their philosophy, I like what they had going on. And I said, instead of building another 7 principles for athletes, I just joined their division and helped them out and keep 7 principles separate and still run it as CEO, and then be over here as a partner of sorts. And so for me, it was all about really understanding the CBR, doing well with it. And then once I got a grasp of that, it was off to the races. My exam I took the first time took me 3 whole hours, because it's a 3-hour exam. It took me the whole 3 hours. The second time it took me an hour and a half. So I'm super competent in the CBA now. I understand it left and right. And now being able to be a part of the NFL is pretty cool. As far as changing my life, it hasn't really changed my life, so to speak. It's a cool opportunity. I love it. Obviously, I'm blessed to be here. Like, please don't take offense, like me saying, "Oh yeah, just whatever." No, I'm really blessed to be here. I'm super thankful. But it's like any other business you get into. You got to have the capital. If you don't have the capital, you can't really kind of perform. And you need to also work your ass off to build that trust amongst guys to get them to say, "Yeah, I want you to represent me for my contract," which is the most delicate part of their process, which is like a VA claim as well.
See, and that's something that I really want to, dial in on, because the way you connected those two.
Mhm.
And that to me is exactly the nut that needs to bust, is
Mhm.
the communities, the cultures, the societies. What you just communicated is the exact issues of why all veterans are hesitant to establishing rapport. It's a very intimate relationship. I have to share things with you. You have to
Yeah.
share things with me. I could
Mhm.
imagine, some of the conversations with these kids and their desires, their passions, their ambitions, and having to set those expectations and then crafting an intelligent plan of attack, a
Yep.
strategy, because a plan's
Yep.
one thing, but the strategy and the execution,
Execution
that's
is
where it's
different. Yeah.
at.
And that's where
Well,
I'm good at. I'm good at executing and strategy. Planning it, I'm a little iffy on. I mean, I can do it obviously, and it'll come off well. But I'm really great at executing. I'm really good at like getting from point A to point B. How we get there, sometimes I may not be the best at. There's other people that are really better at it than I am, but execution, that's where I'm at.
I love it, dude. I love that, because to me, it's very a unique personality, very much so.
Mhm.
And when you find somebody that's capable of executing, non-hesitant, confident, right?
Yep.
But humble, right? No,
Yep.
we're not talking about arrogance. We're not talking about egotistical. We're talking about confidence and competence.
Yep.
And in that, I think that's some of the best energy to mentor and provide youth with, because a lot of the things that we're going to be running into in just the next few months, next couple years, it's going to shift the economies. It's going to shift the way we do things. It's going to shift the way that we enjoy, whatever it is that's going on. There's a lot of conversation about that. But to know that there's gentlemen like yourself out here, helping veterans get those claims put together, getting those fully developed claims, I should say.
Yep.
Just putting in a claim is
FTC.
one thing. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the next thing too is, you're out here helping young men that are, transitioning to being a professional athlete, which
Mhm.
is a lot.
Yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
there's so much that, we could talk more and more about that, but I did want to go back to the partnership of your wife and yourself, and
Yep.
that grace in God and everything. And for me to kind of wrap it up here, what I would like to ask is, how do you practice that sense of connection and that faith? Do you guys go to church?
Communication. We actually don't go to church. We've never been to church together, which is she's in her office. My office is in her office on the other side of the house, and I can see through the other side, which is crazy because we actually just started discussing that. My oldest daughter, she's 13. Not my oldest. My oldest is 18, but the older baby here, my older daughter, she's out doing her own thing. She's big, grown on her own. So bless her heart. That girl's amazing. But my 13-year-old, she actually has been bringing up church a lot more, and we actually have not been to church in a very long time. Even though I grew up in church, I've not been to church. So yeah. So for us, I can't, in good faith say, yeah, we go to church and we have a Christ-centered home, but it's not that way. Even though we all believe in Christ and we do reverence the Lord and we have a relationship with God, it's not necessarily we go to church. So for us, it's just constant communication, man. And I think we both have very balancing spirits, and I'm definitely more of a type A go-getter, run out there, super extrovert. She's the opposite. She's more chill, relaxed, and she's not going to really be outside like that. She's more of an introvert. Me, I'm outside running around, having fun, shaking hands and kissing babies. And so I think she understands my personality. She understands like my weakness as well, and she's able to balance that. And she also can see a lot of things that I don't see, because I am around a lot of people. I'm definitely a people magnet, and I also lead a pretty decent sized company, and I'm in the limelight as well too, as a public profile of sorts. But she's able to see things that I don't see all the time, and I really just trust people. I feel like everybody's has good in them, and she's like, no, they don't. So
Yeah,
it's a good balance.
that's beautiful, man. And I love how that sense of balance and that sense of love, and even establishing a sense of that Christly love, right? Where
Yeah.
hey, I'm not the first person to say this. I won't be the last, but sometimes the church doesn't fit what you need, right?
Yeah.
And wherever you can get Jesus, this was something that I learned in Iraq. Okay, we had the Soul Train. Okay, in Al Qaim, Iraq, that was our chapel services. Was in a broken down train station, in a couple of train cart whatever they call them, the carts, the wagons, where there's seats and stuff. And the Soul Train was, just this beautiful thing, this beautiful juxtaposed place in the middle of this, Al Qaim, Iraq, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing I just always remember the chaplain saying is, it doesn't matter where you get your Jesus, just make sure you're getting them. Just make sure you're getting them. And that's something that I really do. I feel like, it's just so empowered to like mention, of course, on this show, because when we first started talking about it, and of course, bringing up the VA and bringing up, not so great experiences, but knowing that people, gentlemen like yourself, are out there to help people, not just like myself, but people in other circumstances.
Absolutely.
It's really great to know. So we'll kind of wrap up here. Do you have any other things that we should share before we wrap up? Any shout outs? Like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, no shout outs really. Just love yourself, love your neighbor, be cool, be chill. I mean, that's kind of my personality. I'm more chill, happy go lucky. So yeah, I'll just tell people love each other. But I will end on one quote. And this quote is a quote that I actually had found on Facebook one day, and I was like, I have to screenshot this because it embodies kind of how I live my life and my thought philosophy on things in life. So I read it off to the listeners, and I read it in more of a gender neutral term. The man or woman who does more than he or she is paid for will soon be paid for more than he or she does. And so, and that's from Napoleon Hill. And so the spirit of it is that whenever you're in a position to do good by others and offer value, you should. And so that's how I live my life. I think that's why God has just blessed me tremendously. I could have some really effed up stories and opposite experience like you were expressing as well. But for me, what has worked specifically for me is that I have always given more than what I should, and in circumstances where I shouldn't give anything at all, I've given something, or if not more. And I've always left things better than how I found. That's how my mother and my father raised me. And so I want to give that to the listeners that, if you do more than what's required, more comes back to you that you never thought you would have. And hope that helps someone out there that's looking to help other people, and offer value. Hold me down.
So hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me tight. Hold me, hold me, hold me to the sound. I've been in a mood for a month or two. I've been acting crazy, no, it's nothing new. Lately, it's been hard to get out of bed. I try to keep my cool, but I lose my head, and it all starts falling apart, baby. Hold me down, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold the side. Hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me to the sound. Hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold the side. Hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me right, hold me down. Hold me tight. To the sound. Hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me right. Hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me right. Hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me right. Hold me, hold me, hold me right. Hold